House lawmakers continue to push for the creation of a sovereign wealth fund, which supposedly will have the backing of President Bongbong Marcos.
But some economists are pushing back on the measure, saying it's bad timing given the current economic conditions. Marian Enriquez with the report.
The House Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries met on Thursday to tackle the bill seeking to create a sovereign wealth fund that will be called Maharlika Investment Fund. The objective of the MIF is to pull funds from government financial institutions and channel them to diversified investments with a goal to grow government savings. The measure has already been approved in principle by the committee but needs fine-tuning by a technical working group. Northern Samar Representative Paul Daza raised concerns about the provision stating that the national government shall contribute to the fund on an annual basis and that subsequent annual contributions shall be provided by the General Appropriations Act.
What is the principle behind allowing funding the sovereign fund from the General Appropriations Act when the very spirit and essence of such a fund is really the excess wealth, surplus of the government?
It's counterintuitive, pero if there's fiscal space, why not? It's just, sir, an allowance, a leeway.
Another concern is the provision where the Philippine president will sit as a chairperson of the board of directors, while 2 independent directors will be appointed by the president.
Because if they're all government appointees, I'm worried that in the future, it's not completely independent.
ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro also questioned how the social security system is able to commit 50 billion pesos for the initial investment. The measure proposes a seed money of 250 billion pesos from the founding government financial institutions or GFIs.
Dito sa Maharlika Wealth Fund, meron pa tayong pera. That is part of our assets under management. At saka po, ang release hindi naman isahan lang. This will be released in tranches.
Castro stresses the need to further study the measure since it is taxpayers' money that will be used for the seed fund. For political economist Calixto Chiquiamco, it's not yet the right time to put up a sovereign wealth fund.
On the financial side, I think it's not the right time. There is a danger of corruption, of politicization of the investment. They say there will be good governance, there will be independent directors, but you can only do that when you have a rule of law.
The committee is looking at deliberating the measure on the plenary for interpellation and debate by next week. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
The bill filed by House Speaker Martin Romualdez and several other lawmakers wants to create a Philippine sovereign wealth fund. But what exactly is a sovereign wealth fund? Here's what we know. Under House Bill 6398, the proposed fund will draw money from government pension funds and banks to invest in real and financial assets. This will be managed by the Maharlika Investment Corporation. That will be a government-owned and controlled corporation to be created through the measure. A sovereign wealth fund, simply put, is a fund which the nation can use to invest around the world. This can be used in international stock markets, for example, on bonds, real estate, precious metals, and even hedge funds. The point of this would be to help grow public funds. The aim of the proposed fund in the country will be to promote economic development, strengthen the national budget, and boost citizen savings. The bill will draw inspiration from nearly 100 countries with sovereign wealth funds. These include France, Norway, China, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait. Sovereign wealth fund is usually put up by countries with a budgetary surplus, which the Philippines does not have, as well as nations with almost no international debt, which the Philippines has. The initial investment is pegged at 250 billion pesos. Around 125 billion pesos will come from the GSIS, 50 billion from the SSS, another 50 billion from Landbank, and 25 billion pesos from the Development Bank of the Philippines. Adding to that is the 25 billion pesos to come from the national government's budget. One economist has warned that getting the funding from government pension funds and banks could be problematic.
usually economies who are establishing a sovereign fund are those economies who are experiencing surplus, trade surplus, some sort of problematic because as of or recently, we have been experiencing some constraints in funding the benefits of the members of these organizations, given its limited fund as of the moment.
Is it time for the country to create its own sovereign wealth fund? Here to give us their take on the matter, we have with us live via Zoom GSIS President General Manager Mr. Jose Arnulfo Veloso. Good evening. Welcome to the big story, Mr. Veloso.
Good evening.
Sir, kanina po, sabi ng mga economists, including Mr. Chiquiamco, sabi nga nila, both financially on the fiscal side as well as on the political reality side of the Philippines, we're not quite ready for this. What do you think?
I beg to disagree. In the first place, ang trabaho po namin dito sa mga pension funds po na nabanggit nyo, GSIS at ang SSS ay mag-invest ng pondo. We have 1.5 trillion funds under management po. And we collect 26 billion pesos a month. Our duty is to be able to find viable investments and be able to make it productive, safe for the future generation, specifically for our members. Ngayon po, kami ay nag-i-invest at ang program po na pag-invest sa isang sovereign wealth fund, ang ngayon magsasama-sama po ang SSS, GSIS, and the two government banks, Landbank and DBP, so we can train our guns to be able to not only make our money grow, but also help in nation building. And that kind of thinking probably is a far-fetched thinking that may no longer be relevant in what today's market needs. Marami po tayong mga flows. At hindi lang po siguro nila napapansin na iba po mga perang pumapasok dito po sa atin ng mga flow, continuous po, nagiging perpetuity na pumapasok po ang flow. Galing ho halimbawa sa mga dolyar, contribution galing po sa ating mga OFWs. Meron din pong mga dolyar na galing po din sa ating mga BPO sector. At ang layunin po natin ay matuloy na ma-invest ang mga ito sa isang industriya na matatawag natin na talagang Pilipino, a Philippine industry that we can fully support. Katulad ng bakal, wala ho tayo, halos lahat ho ng bakal ay ini-import ho natin. Pagkalimbawa ho sa infrastruktura, ang dam po, ay, pag ito po ay pagmamayari po halimbawa ng isang pondong katulad nito at upang magmamanage dito sa amin, ay tuloy-tuloy ang kita niya na teknolohiya ho niya na hindi magbabago for the next 100, 500 years. Pababa ang tubig, magproduce ng kuryente. Kukunin mo rin yung iba pang produce ng tubig. Pag mura ang kuryente sa madaling araw, hihigupin mo pataas. Pagkahigop mo pataas, magproduce ka pa ulit-ulit. I would like to make all of these things grow because we don't want this wasted and just be left unattended. All of these funds that we have are needed for us to also help in nation building.
Mr. Veloso, assuming the public gets behind this and assuming as well that on the fiscal side, as you said, marami naman tayong flows that can be taken care of. What do you say to the people concerned about the political side and the governance side of this, especially if the GAA is going to be tapped to be funding this? Some lawmakers are saying, isn't that a bit ironic? And at the same time, does that create a moral hazard if we don't put in place a governance structure that is completely transparent and, for that matter, completely independent?
Okay, ano po nyo muna? Una, you have a 15-member board. And the 15-member board are composed, of course, of the founding organizations that I've mentioned. May kanya-kanya ho kaming share. Meron ng mga experts na nariyan. Meron ho tayong advisory body na magsisigurado na tamang direction at ginagawa. Meron ho tayong congressional oversight para masigurado na ang taong bayan ay protektado. At kayo pong taong bayan ay makikita ninyo kung anong ginagawa namin. Kayong makakahusga kung saan at papaano po ginagamit ang pera na ini-invest sa inyo sapagkat may annual reporting po itong aming gagawin para sa sovereign wealth fund ninyo.
Hey, sir, given by definition, sovereign wealth funds are state investment funds from a country's surplus reserves. Do you believe that we have surplus funds? And taking a look at the breakdown...
Correction, yes. That's a very much ill-perceived. Hindi lang ho sa mga excess, hindi lang ho pagka nagkaroon ka ng pasobra, magkakaroon ka ng sovereign wealth fund. That's a very much Google definition that has been, tignan po ninyo ang Indonesia, meron ho silang sovereign wealth fund. Eksakto na ang purpose po nito ay para sa national development, which is similar to what Vietnam is also doing. At yan po, ang definition ay nagsimula dahil nung sinimulan niya ng Kuwait, sila ay nagwo-worry tungkol sa kanilang source po ng langis na baka mawala. At ang kanilang position po sa kanilang financial performance, of course, excess. Kaya ginawa kong ganun ng definition. Pero hindi po ganyan ang purpose ng sovereign wealth fund. I would like to change everyone's perception about how a sovereign wealth fund is. A sovereign wealth fund is the wealth of a nation that is going to be invested po. Itong wealth po nito ay nanggagaling either sa mga pera, mga kontribusyon o mga flows na nagkakaroon po ng annuity na naroon po sa ating bayan nakaparada na dapat po magamit at ma-invest properly. Ay mga pera po ito ini-invest din ngayon. Ang ginagawa po natin ay nag-join forces po tayo. Yung iba-ibang agencies that are mentioned here were all put together para magtulong-tulong at sila ay makagawa ng isang kumpanya that is going to be independent. As a matter of fact, during the technical working discussion earlier, we proposed that the private sector be part of who will compose the board. The proposal was for the Philippine Stock Exchange president to also be there, the president of the Bankers Association with the president of the BAP be there. There was a proposal from the academe to be there. So the area of transparency is going to be fully covered. I just want po to make that very clear to our audience po.
Alright, maraming salamat po for your thoughts, GSIS President and General Manager, Mr. Vic Veloso.